What I'm going to do now is switch to one of these layouts. Let's start with the ANSI A portrait layout. Okay. Now with your template, what you should look for is in your layers, take a look at your viewport layer. If that layer is off, make sure you turn it on, because that viewport may not be centered in your layout. Okay. If you do not have a viewport, let's say, what you could do is on the viewport layer, if you don't have a viewport there, you can use the MV command and enter to cut a whole new viewport. Okay, just make sure that viewport is on the viewport layer. What we'll be able to do later is actually freeze that viewport so we don't see it. Alright, so that's just so you can get a view of the model in the layout. Now you also notice we can see all the colors from our layers. So what I would do before I proceed here is actually do the page setup first, right? So if I hover over the selected layout tab here, I can right click over it and do a page setup. What I want to do here is create a Paperspace page setup. So here I'm going to call it PDF letter, and then I enter page setup. What I want to do here for my PDF is select a DWG to PDF printer. You can use the ANSI full bleed A, and then for our window, what area to plot, we can use extents. I'm going to make sure center of the plot is checked. The plot scale here, paper, is always set to 1:1, and for our color table, we're going to use the class standard HP Plotter Mono Student. Now, if you check here, display plot styles, then whenever you're in the paper, you're going to see basically a live preview, right, together with all your line weights. So once you check all your settings, click OK here. Make sure now that you've created a page setup that you set it current. Notice right now, even though I just created it, it's not set until I select it and then set it current. When I close, then you'll see the layout update. So now you can see here, this is the way it's going to look. Now, before I actually make my print, I want to double click into the model space viewport here, or use my buttons here to switch between the layout paper and the layout model. I want to be sure that my scale is correct. Notice how it isn't right now, but I'm going to set it 1:1, and now you can see it's correct. What you also see now is that I've got a little bit of cropping going on here. Maybe not what I want to do, but I can do this one of two ways. I can go back to the model and edit my geometry there, or what I could do is I could lock the viewport here and simply zoom in while I'm in the layout model and just adjust my geometry by selecting it. Okay. Now I could do a couple things here. For example, this is what's being cut off. You can see here I can actually maybe pan a little bit more. Let me unlock and pan a little bit more to the left there. Lock that viewport, and then now I can see my grip that is for my dimension. And you can see now, because I locked my viewport, right, it's easier for me to zoom in and make my changes, and then I could adjust everything else here too. Alright, so you can work within the layout to fine-tune the drawing. Make sure that you're set to scale, that you lock that viewport. Return to the layout paper. You'll want to freeze the viewport layer, so it makes sense to switch back to 0 layer, then freeze using this freeze button. Freeze the viewport, and then zoom in to the title block information here. Double click on any part of the text, and then just update your text there. So this is problem 2-1. You're using A-size paper. Put in a date. Your initials, this is 0 revision. This is the first time you turn it in. And this is going to be 1 of 6. And the scale for my viewport there was 1 to 1. I'll keep it 1 to 1 there. Zoom extents, and now I'm ready to make my print. To make my print, I can use output, and since I already did the page setup, all I need to do is preview, right click, and then plot. And what I'm doing here is I'm going to save it to my project folder. Okay, so make sure you guys have a folder for your drawings here, and you can see I'm in module 1. Here's my 6 single views. I'm going to create a PDF folder there, call it PDF, and then save my PDF in there. Now notice that it uses the generic drawing file name plus the layout name to name your PDF. What you could do here is just give it a simple name, 2-1 there, and then save. Okay? And that completes problem 2-1.